go through your sari silk pile. This is obviously too short. It at least has to be double the length of the see how long this is? It needs to be at least double that. So now that you know that, go ahead and get your sari out. Now, I don't want you to feel like you have to have sari for this project or sari silk. You can use ribbon, you can use string, you can use whatever you feel you want to tie your journal closed. Just be sure that it's obviously not going to be wide like a paintbrush and really, really hard, because that is going to be really, really hard to mount anything onto and get it to affix to the journal properly and not cause you problems during the binding process or even trying to close it and making it functional. So this stuff is actually for this video, which is not finished yet. So go watch it. Go watch it. Now we have 4 pieces of cardboard in a big size. That's these 2 and these 2. And I'm going to tell you the measurements compared to this book. Our book is 7 3/4 by 6 1/2. Now the front should be exactly the same. If it's off by, like, you know, a one, like a itty bit, then that's no big deal. It's shiftable, but yes, the front is normally always going to be the same as the back. So now, of course, we have a 1 1/2 inch spine, and it is going to be used in this measurement, which is 7 3/4. So we're going to go ahead and take this, and I think I want this up top here to be seen. So I'm going to glue this and prep it to be the right size. And we'll use our ruler and just bend up the edge, give us a nice straight line. And go ahead and fold. The line is still partially there, but it'll still give us like a bit of a starting point. And let's just make sure that everything straight lines up. This one needs pulled back and relaid down, and that is perfectly fine. Now remember, this needs to be 7 3/4. So our next line will go right here. So we'll just measure that down to 7 3/4. We have fabric scissors here, so let's go ahead and just cut this off. Fabric scissors are your best bet. Paper scissors are going to leave your fabric torn and a little frayed. Now you can see the line right there from where you folded, and if you have to shift it in the light to be able to see the line, that is perfectly fine. There's nothing that says you can't do that. Alright. I'm just going to fold and start to press. And usually if you press straight like that, everything will follow suit, and as long as you line the edges up, then you're usually going to get a straight line. Just do the best that you can. Now this should be exactly 7 3/4, and it is. That is definitely perfect. All right, now we are going to add our sari silk and our centerpiece to our journal. Now I like to fold my sari silk in half, line them up here, and you'll usually find your middle focal point. Usually I'll take a pen and draw where my center is, and I will do the same with this, but I didn't bring a pen. Oh, here we go. I got a pencil. This is an art pencil too. So now I got a little mark, and 7 3/4 usually means about there. So it'd be 7 1/4 plus 1 notch. So it'd be 3 1/2, 1/4, and 1 notch. There's our halfway point. Because half of 7 is 3 1/2, and add 1/4 of an inch and 1/8 of an inch. It works in my head. What can I say? All right, let's add some glue here. And we're going to smooth it out. Now, if we add the sari silk, unless you sew it directly to the cardboard that is going to be mounted to here. If you want to save the words in the middle, then you can't mount the sari in the middle, which means you'll have to crop it and mount it starting from here. And if you do that, I would only do it in under suggestion of you're going to sew your sari to your pieces here. I am going to sew my sari, or sew my pieces, but because of the way I'm mounting this, I won't have to sew the sari to it. Alright, now we're going to do an approximate line of where we know our sari silk is going to be. Smooth out the glue and just start sticking. Usually this is how I like to smooth it out. Pre-smooth it, stick it between the fingers, and just go. Makes it a little bit easier. There we are. For the most part, it's nice and smooth. And we're just going to do the same thing for the opposite side. And again, I'm going to smooth the sari between my fingers as best as I can. And lay it down and smooth it out really nice like. There we go. Alright, that is now ready to almost sit and dry. We have to add this piece, and I want the white at the top. You see how it fits perfectly into place there. Now let's add our glue. And to start off, I'm only going to add it to the spine. And then we can backfill the sides. That's from the sari. It's giving me some problems here. And I want to fill in the spine extra good. We want to make sure that it's mounted, whether it's going to have pages stuck to it or not. Because I think I am going to put a little pocket here for some art pens or some something. And if you guys haven't yet already, check out my other box tutorial. I'll try and remember to stick in the video, although I do have a lot going on right now, so if I forget, I'm sorry. But it is one of my more popular videos, and there is a playlist for it. So if you go to my YouTube channel, there definitely is a playlist for it already, so it shouldn't be too difficult to find because it is almost a mini series. Actually, I wouldn't even call it a mini series. It's just pretty much a series. But it's definitely in depth on some box making with compartments and little foldaways and all of that wonderful goodness. So now we're going to go back in and just glue these little flaps down. Make sure and glue them down really good because we don't want them obviously coming back up once we have handed them off as a gift, or you know, if we're making them for ourselves and we really want them to be sturdy. There's also that. Alright, now we're gonna glue. And this also reinforces these right here. You don't know how old the fabric could be depending on your book. And you don't want it to disintegrate once you give it to that special someone. So I know some of you may want to, you know, utilize that beautiful paper on the inside of this, but if the edges of your book are not suitable and will not last for a while after you do bind it, you're probably going to reinforce it or want to reinforce it just like this. This is always a good idea when you're binding a book to reinforce it. All right. Our next step is to add the book plates. Now, little tip, if you're using cardboard and you do not want to utilize like the entire bottle of glue, we'll come back to that piece. That piece is later. Same thing with this one. Then you'll want to stitch them. And what you're going to want to do is stitch the glossy side to the back of your pretty paper. This way you don't have to use all of that glue, and at the same time you don't have to sand it as much either, if at all, because it's going to be stitched in place. But use 3-in-1 to mount it for the sewing step, because 3-in-1 can be ran through the sewing machine. Now we're just going to put a little bit, nice little X, some around the edges. We're going to take our paper and just slide it around some, give it some tacky goodness, and center it perfectly. Because by the time we get to the centering stage, the glue's already tacky enough to keep it there perfectly. Now let's do the next one. Remember, glossy side to the back if you're sewing it. If not, you're going to have to go through and completely hand sand this. And speaking from experience, that is a lot of work. All right, let's go ahead and we're going to shift it around so we get good contact with all the glue. Makes it nice and smooth. Now center. Now these pieces have to be the exact same size and cover up all of the white and come to the edge right here. This is how they will look. Isn't that beautiful? Now I see some of the pattern on this cardboard. I want to shift it a little. All right, now I'm going to sew around the edges. You sew around the edges of yours as well. All right, now they're nice and sewed. These are ready to go. We can mount them. Now for these, you can use as much glue as you desire because you do not want them coming back up. And definitely, I always like to put extra glue along the stitch lines. It reinforces everything and makes sure that it all sticks nice and beautifully. Now, I know you guys see me smooth out glue a lot. Not for this one. We want it to be nice and gooey. All right, let's line it up with the white and get it right on there. And press it into place. It is looking good, guys. Well, personally, I ended up putting it backwards from what I originally wanted, but I think that is going to be okay. And we're not going to see the stitch work, but that is also okay, because this, you know what, let's see if I can't, let's pull it up and swap it, because I do really would like this on the opposite side. Oh, there we go, perfect. Now it's not going to hurt to add more glue, because we definitely want this to be nice and sticky. But we want to be a little fast too, because we can still utilize the glue that's stuck for the other side. So glue fast if you just decided to swap. Alright, now I'm going to keep it to the other side. Yes, we kind of have some cobwebs going on. That is okay. We can peel those off in a moment. Don't let them get hard though. You definitely want to peel them off before that happens. And I just stuck my hand. Man, today is just my day for these projects. Okay. Alright, this is still nice and tacky. Now, I like to use and make sure the strings are at the bottom. Let's go ahead and glue this one and get it on. And we did get some glue on our Surrey silk. Get it while it's still damp, and it should come right off. Just gently rub it off. It'll turn into a nice little glue ball. Now we're going to build the box last. I want to build this next. So I do want the cardboard again to be on this side down and the shiny side up, because we're going to do the sewing trick again. So let's go ahead and get some gluing going on here. Now, this is not the only thing we are going to be gluing into place. And I never did cut a strip for this, so I need to go cut one real quick. Let's go ahead and we're going to do the same thing with this one and glue this in place. Alright, we are going to let these dry a little bit. Alright guys, let's take a look at what we have. Now, we measured these and we know what size they're going to be. They're going to be the same size as our interior book plate in the book that we are currently working with. Mine is 6.5 wide and 7 3/4 tall. My spine is also 1.5 inches wide by 7 1/4 tall. So this is what we are working with. Now remember, that's not accounting for our bend here that we have. This bend in the book never counts because we want to make sure and have that little bit of gap for being able to function properly. All right, now that we know the size, I went ahead and pretty much measure out this same size, and I cut out 1/4 inch along the top and along the side. And when you lay it down, it pretty much comes out to 1/8 inch on the top, bottom, and side to side. Same thing here. If you line it up this way, it'll be approximately 1/4 inch across the top and 1/4 inch across the side. And when you center it, it'll be 1/8 inch all the way around. Now, these will also be sewn around. But before I want to sew around them, I want to build them up a little bit. At least this one anyway. So I brought some of these pages. I brought this. And I brought this. Now we want to look at this and see which one we like with it better. Do we like the pattern? Or do we like more of the grayscale? I think I like the pattern better. So I'm going to take this piece, which is going to go across the top, and I'm going to glue it and lay it on my pattern. And we will smooth out this glue. It'll make it tackier when it comes time to stick and easier to work with. You can also do the shifting if you like instead. So we're going to go ahead and tack it. And it can be about 1/8 inch from the edge. That's fine. But we're going to go ahead and just push it up to that edge. Now after we do that, I want to go ahead and fold it back and press down. And there's a reason why I'm doing this. Now after I do this, we can put a little bit of glue on the glossy to tack it in place. Make sure it doesn't go anywhere. Now we need our cutting board. And I use this cutting board for all of my projects, pretty much all of my projects in general. It's folded in half right now. We're going to push it up to the edge and just trim off this excess. And now we have a wonderful lip going on here. And we are also just going to trim off what's going on right here. You can eye it. Perfect, right along the edge. And I'm going to do the same for this side. We can bend it so we know a little bit where it's at if you cannot eye it. All right, perfect. Now let's go ahead and smooth this out. And we are going to move our cutting board. Now, There's a reason why we did the lipped edge like this. Now what we are going to do is just very gently glue the very edges. I have a lot of extra glue right there, so we're just going to go ahead and use our finger because we don't want it to get crazy out of bounds. Now see how we can read this? We're going to match it up perfectly with the top. Oh, it's a little bigger. I thought it was the exact size. That is okay. We can trim it down. Don't worry about it. Just press it into place. And don't worry about this because we are going to stick it through the sewing machine. That is okay. Now for this next one, I cut 1.5 inch square. Now these I cut 1 inch square, and I drew a line right down it diagonally using a ruler, as you guys usually know. And I don't know where it is right now. Right here. I used this ruler. So what I actually did was I laid the cardboard, inch thick cardboard on here, and I lined it up. And then I took a piece of cardboard or a piece of paper, and I lined it up with this 45-degree line. It says, or no, 45. I lined it up with the 45-degree line. So I put it on this 10-inch line. And then I lined this up with the 45 degrees. Held it in place and then drew my line. And then from there I cut out the inch and then cut sideways. It was just easier for me that way. I hope that kind of explains it to you. So it's easier just to cut 1 inch by inch square, take a ruler and draw a line across the middle. So it comes out nice and even. Then I went ahead and cut 1 inch by, or 1.5 inch by 1.5 inch square. And I took our triangle and I mounted it up with the edge and folded the edge over. So what we are going to do now is take our inch triangle cut in half, our inch square cut into a triangle, and we're going to mount it right to the corner of this 1.5 inch square. And we're going to do the same thing with this one. You can shift it around a little bit if you want. Alright, this one should be about dry enough. So I want to fold this over to touch the edge. And the reason why I'm doing that is because now we're going to match up our triangle right here. Perfect. We're going to put some glue on this one we just folded over. And go ahead and glue it down. And you can see that our points match up perfectly. And we are going to do the same thing with this. We're just going to fold it over. And we're going to push in right there. And fold it over again. Now you have a perfectly mounted corner. Now let's mount these sections down. Now isn't that just cute or what? Alright. Now we're going to do the same thing with this. Let's go ahead and fold that back. We can put a little bit of glue here. It's not going to hurt anything. Now we're going to fold this perfectly over and bend these down. And it wouldn't even hurt to do some prep work right here and bend these down. Right there. Alright, now let's stick it into place. We're just going to mount it up or line it up really good. Hold it in place, pinch it really good while we smooth it out and lay it down. We'll just press our corners really nice. And of course we want this to get tacky before we start bending our corners. Perfect. All right, now let's go ahead and glue our edges. All right, now depending on your sewing machine will determine how thick of this you can go through, but it should be fine. Be gentle when you get to the thicker parts and make sure that it's not going to break anything or push anything out of the way. If you have to, just rotate the knob manually. I'm going to go ahead and run this through a sewing machine. If you don't run this through a sewing machine, just cut off this little piece, go in there and add a little bit of glue, and this should be ready to go. Alright guys, look at how beautiful this is. I'm going to go ahead and set this onto my cutting board and cut off this little extra piece here. Just line it up easy. You can usually push it over perfectly. There we have it. This is ready to mount. And remember, we want it right in the middle of our piece here. And then let's go ahead and put it into place. Center it really good before you go start pressing anything into place. Because you got to remember, this is also going to fit just inside our little box to kind of secure everything and hold it in place when it closes. It'll be like a little lip. Alright. I'm going to set these on them, just to give it a little bit of weight while it dries. And I'm going to go ahead and start on the box. So because we have this wonderful cardboard texture here, and then we have the glossy, I want the glossy to go on the inside. So to start off, I grabbed excess here, and this will be perfectly great to use for this. You don't have to use this specific one if you don't want to. Excuse me. Actually, I think I'm going to use this one instead because there's more. So I'm going to need at least pretty much the same as these. So you have 8 of these. You're probably going to need 12 total. So I went ahead and cut 4 more of these out so we can have them. So we'll worry about these in a moment. So this is the one set. This is another set. So what we want to do is we just want to put this right in the middle, just like this. And I just cut these to be 1.5 inches. Just like that is perfectly fine. We're going to smooth it out. And remember, this is not the glossy side. This is the actual cardboard rough side. We're going to go ahead and stick it approximately 1/4 to halfway. Now this piece is what we're going to be mounting these to, and this piece is the same size as this piece. Exact same size. Maybe, well no, this one isn't, about 1/8 of an inch bigger, so it's not much bigger, but it's just enough to where this piece will fit inside of this piece. Alright, now that we have all these glued together, we're going to want 4 pieces of cardboard to build up our box on the sides. Now we want this piece in the corner to be approximately 1/4 of an inch smaller on this side and 1/4 of an inch smaller on this side, give or take. It's all about your own opinion and how you want it. Now, after you know that size, you're going to want 2 pieces that are as tall as this one is and 1.5 inches wide. So this piece is exactly 7 3/8. 7 3/8. So I was correct. This piece should be approximately 7.5. So it is approximately 7.5. It's a little over 3/8. All right, no, this one's 7 3/8. 1, 2, 3, and this one is exactly 7.5. Perfect. Okay, so this one is 7.5. So, and there's a reason I made this one 3/8 of an inch, and this one 7.5. So that way, this one could fit inside of this one when closing. And then, so this one is also going to be 7.5. You're going to have one for the opposite side that is also 7.5 by an inch. And then the box is going to be 6 1/4 inches wide. So you're going to want another one that is 6 1/4 inches wide by 1.5. Another one that is 6 1/4 inches wide by 1.5. All right, now we are going to cut off this excess paper that we just glued to it and had some hang off the end. And along with that, we want to cut a 90, actually, no, don't worry about it. Yeah. Okay, now that we have these cut, just go ahead and fold them over, just like this. And you're gonna see it starting to kind of come together. These are all purple, if I'm not mistaken. We will also want the last thing we're going to want to do is we have 1.5 inches by 2 inches, and we have 4 of these. Now we're just going to glue one to each side. All right, now all of these are glued into place. The final step before we start sewing, we are going to glue all of these on the glossy side. Yes, you heard me right, the glossy side. And this tab here is going to be the bottom. So if you want the words to be right side up, make sure that you can read them in this direction. Because there's so many parts, it's easier to smooth out the glue before you lay the pieces down at this point. Alright guys, I don't have much time before I have to be at work, but we're at the finishing stretch. So I sewed around all of these. As you can tell, this is still the cardboard side. Every single one of them. And as well, this final piece is here, these final 4 pieces that are the same exact size as all of these, I also sewed around. So we're going to bend these ends over. Alright, all 4 of them to match. Now on these bottom ones along the long side, we're just going to take some scissors and we're going to cut them at an angle. Every single one of them. There should be 4 cuts made. Just cut them at a triangle. So we also sewed around this. And what we are going to do is, see how this is right side up? We also want to make sure this is right side up. We're going to lay this like this, match it up perfectly, and we are going to glue the edge of this, long edge of this piece of cardboard right here. Actually, we can just glue this. That's fine too. Oh, you know, I almost forgot. Before we glue anything down, we need to cut these too. Cut these corners off as well, all 4 of them. So it looks like that. All right, let's go ahead and I'm going to smooth out this glue and lay this one down. We don't want those strings in the way. And the reason why I'm laying it flat is so when I roll this over and it opens up on top, it's not going to be, you know, I can line it up perfect from the top and the bottom, and as well it's not going to be, you know, there's not going to be not enough space to bend it down. Instead of laying it flat side by side, and then you're going to have a little bit harder time to bend it in space into place. This way some of the work is already done for you. Usually I have my binder clips right here. Oh, here's one. They'll help me to hold it in place while it dries. And we're just going to cut off the rest of these little corners. Don't worry about the strings. On this project for me specifically, I'm going to cut them off anyway. If you want to save them, just go ahead and move them out of the way. All right. Perfect. And remember, we're not even gluing that, so don't worry about that. As a matter of fact, for now, we can just fold it back out of the way. Thankfully, this one really doesn't have to be, because the words are mounted from the bottom, not from side to side, so we won't have to really match that with the top pieces. And remember, we're also making sure that these line up perfectly on the sides while we are mounting the top. Alright, let's go ahead and open this one up so we can mount this a little easier. There we go, much better. Alright, I'm going to take this binder clip, just stick it right there. And we can fold that one back for now. I'm going to go ahead and go to Glue Town again. This one is not going to be right side up, but compared to this one, but that's okay. That will just go in a consecutive little circle type deal. All right, unclip this one, pull it out. This one is next. Line it up and push down. And I'm just kind of resting it against my stomach to give me something to push down on. Maybe a little bit more sturdy. You can rest it on the table too and push from the top down, but I want you guys to be able to see it, so I can't do it that way. All right, binder clip. I'm just going to hold here while I add some glue. We can pull these back out of the way. Because of the way I'm doing mine, that will work out perfect. I don't have to worry about cutting them, and this will secure them into place perfectly so they won't possibly come out due to wear over time. Understand? Yeah, I think I do. Alright, we're going to go ahead and we'll pull these ones down too to match. Perfect. I'm just going to set that approximately where it should be. Undo this binder clip, and we can flip this under. Move that one out. Alright, this last one should be pretty easy to line up. And we're going to go ahead and push everything into place. And if you are going to get some sticky residue anywhere, along here is probably the best place for you to, you know, accidentally get sticky residue. Or, you know, right here would be alright too, but you don't want it to be like too protruding because we're going to be gluing stuff there. Alright, perfect. I'm going to put this clippy here to hold this while it secures a little bit. And now we can go through, and we're going to glue these down, these flaps here, we're going to just glue them down. And now we have a nice little box. Make sure they line up. You know, you don't want to have a odd shaped box. Just line it along the top here and it'll help out perfectly. This one needs shifted down a little bit. It was too high up. And just press. Look at that beautiful box, guys. Well, guys, it is officially time for me to leave for work. But thankfully, this video is just about finished. I'll take the late one just for you guys today. Shh, don't tell no one. Be our little secret. Alright. Keep pushing this in. You don't want it to pop. And I'm just going to go back and push all these. Make sure they've made it into place really well. This last one especially, because you just want to let it get a little tacky before you move on. Alright. Let's mount these pieces here. And these ones we're going to want to slide to the as close to the top as possible. I'm just going to throw, actually I'm going to cut these strings off and put them at the bottom of our, see the strings go down here, that way they can be messed with and dealt with later. Alright, and remember we're going to slide them to as close to the top as possible and just push them into place. Alright, next side. From the side, this is going to be the top, so if you have any specific direction you want anything to go, that would be the direction to do it. I want my bumblebee to go like that, and it's okay if that's pointed to the top. Because I'm going to trim mine. Now, if you're not going to trim them, it might be a little bit better idea to point the strings to the bottom. That way they don't get in your way when you close the box. Or I guess you could stuff them in the box when you close the box. That's a good idea too. But then I personally wouldn't want them getting tangled in with anything that might be inside the box. And this one will actually, I kind of would have been happier if it was on the other side, but that, you know what, that is okay. She'll see it when she's drawing. Maybe it'll give her some inspiration. Yes, and we want to trim off these strings, whack them off. That is going to be the top, so I obviously want this to be right side up with it. And see, this is why we bound these corners with the purple. I mean, look how wonderful that is. All you do is see this purple on the corners. It works out perfectly. And let's mount this final one. Cut off these strings. I'm going to pull these strings down. Actually, I think I'm just going to cut these off. And I want it to sit this way. It just seems right. Even though I look at it and it's upside down, but that's okay. It just feels right to me. Alright, remember we want it to line up really nicely with the edge so we don't have to see any white. And we're just pushing it all into place, reinforcing it. Oh my goodness, this is just beautiful. I love how gorgeous this came out. Just trimming off these strings because I don't want them in the way when I start mounting everything. You do not have to do this. You can leave your strings. Alright, now all we gotta do is go to town on the back with lots and copious and lots amounts of glue. Oh my goodness, guys. Look how pretty. And it's shifting a little bit. I did put a lot of glue on it. So that way when it does dry, this baby is going nowhere. Okay, I'm going to set these in here. Alright. I have to go get ready for work. I'm gonna trim these strings off. Perfect. And look at this. Oh, perfect. All right, guys, what do you think? Now she has a little spot here she can draw, a little spot here for all of her goodies while she's drawing. She can close it up halfway through her drawing and keep everything secure. And it fits perfect. And then of course she can tie it closed and go on her merry way. So it did work out perfect. I made it 1/8 of an inch smaller, and I mean, look at that. It just slips right in there. It holds everything tight. Nothing shifts, nothing moves. Wow. And I even have a little bit of gap here, so if I want to add a little pocket so she can store some pens, then that is a possibility. So I think I will do that when I get to work. I know you guys have seen some of my videos on how to do that already. Check out my other YouTube video on how to build a oh, I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head. I'll try and leave the playlist in the description box below just for you guys. All right, I will see you guys later. Thanks for joining me for 12 days of Craftmas. Bye.